Good morning, everyone. Welcome to AmBank BizDIALOGUE with Yang Bahagia Tan Sri Azman Hashim. Some housekeeping announcement. If you have any question with regards to the topics, please use the Q&A features at the top of your Microsoft Teams screen. Feel free to type your question and we will address it during the live Q&A session. To kickstart today's session, please welcome our moderator, Encik Najib Arif, Editor, Business and Economy, Astro Awani, to our virtual stage, please. Over to you, Encik Najib.
All right, thank you so much, Razi. Assalamualaikum and a very good morning, everyone. Yang berbahagia, Tan Sri Azman Hashim, Chairman of AmBank Group, Mr. Christopher Yap, Managing Director, Business Banking of AmBank Malaysia Berhad, all participants of AmBank BizDIALOGUE. And it gives me great pleasure to welcome all of you to today's session. Although we do it virtually as part of a new norm, but I hope that this sharing platform gives us abundant knowledge and of course certainly inspired us to be better at what we do. Of course, who would have thought that 2 years ago we had to come to terms with COVID-19 pandemic that led to the closure of economic activities, and it is something that we never expected and imagined would happen in the modern world. And of course, the huge impacts felt by all walks of life. Many lost their jobs, their loved ones, and for businesses, many went bankrupt, and also many also could not anticipate how long the recovery would take. But that's life. Every difficulty has its own silver lining, obviously, but for most of us, COVID-19 becomes a reality check for us to re-evaluate our strengths and also weaknesses and improvements we need to make. And also we have a lot to learn during this difficult period so that we can build resilience, and be it for entrepreneurs or employees in any sector. So changes that were once difficult to make, such as the technological adoption, are now happening so fast and to the level that we never imagined before, or something that will take years to adapt, but happen within 2-year period. So, and also now we are talking about the upskilling, reskilling, even though this is not something and is easy things to do, and it takes a lot of effort and togetherness to achieve it. So today, in this session, we are lucky to have Tan Sri Azman Hashim himself to share his views, ideas, suggestions, stories, wisdoms, and also insights for business success, and also to be inspiration in order for us to rise once again and become better at what we do. I personally have no right words to describe the personality of Tan Sri Azman. Went through so many things in life, and proves vision and commitment will bear fruit despite many difficult times. So no doubt that the last 6 decades, I would say, he has overcome many challenges. He has gone through a few economic crises and proved to us time and again, if there is a will, there is a way. But before I present Tan Sri Azman Hashim, first, I would like to invite Mr. Christopher Yap, Managing Director, Business Banking of AmBank Malaysia Berhad, to deliver the opening remarks. Mr. Christopher, please.
Yang berbahagia Tan Sri Azman Hashim, Chairman of AmBank Group, Encik Najib Arif, Editor, Business and Economy, Astro Awani, customers and participants, AmBank colleagues, good morning, everyone. Firstly, thank you for joining our today's AmBank BizDIALOGUE session. It is really our privilege and honor to have joined by Yang berbahagia Tan Sri Azman Hashim, who will be sharing with us about his very own success story and career milestones, which I'm sure many of you business owners would like to hear from. I myself I've had the pleasure of working under the helm of Tan Sri Azman for a few years since joining the organization, and have witnessed how he has brought the growth of this organization through his leadership. Tan Sri Azman has seen many industries go through many cycles, some of the toughest times, weathered the peaks of the economic cycles, and has always continued to display the versatility despite the changing times. As all of you have been exclusively invited to join this event today, we hope that you will be taking this opportunity to extend the questions that you'd like to have to ask Tan Sri during the Q&A session later on, and the team will address them accordingly. To share some background of this initiative, the AmBank Biz Club is a community platform which we introduced in 2017 to help SMEs to learn and scale their business. And we have 3 main activities under the AmBank Biz Club, namely the AmBank Biz Conferences, our AmBank BizDIALOGUE, which is the one we are having today, and of course, the AmBank Biz Race. Without further ado, let's start the session today. Thank you very much and hope that you have a productive day ahead. Over to you, Encik Najib.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Christopher Yap, Managing Director Business Banking of AmBank Malaysia Berhad. Now, this is time that we are waiting for. Without further ado, join me to welcome Chairman of AmBank Group, Yang Berbahagia Tan Sri Azman Hashim. Good morning, Tan Sri. Thank you so much for letting us to be together with you this morning. It's something that I personally, and I believe everyone in this session shares the same sentiment as well. Pleasure to be part of today's session. Now, Tan Sri, I have few long questions actually, and later in the session, we will be having questions from our audience as well. Again, as mentioned by Radzi, audience can type your questions on the Q&A column. I shall take the questions later on. But first of all, Tan Sri, how has 2022 been treating you so far, Tan Sri?
First of all, Encik Najib, thank you for the introduction. Assalamualaikum, good morning to everybody. I'm pleased to be here. Well, 2022 is only, up April quarter, 1/3 gone. Yeah, well, so far so good. I think we can see a bit of daylight from on COVID. You know, the infections is becoming down. So and government is relaxing on the SOPs and so on. So this is great for business. I think business have been, under over 2 years of pressure. I think we need some daylight. I think the relaxation of the SOPs is great, and hopefully Malaysia will start spending and traveling, at least within the country soon.
All right, that's great. Let's go to the serious questions, I would say. You started off your career as an accountant at a very young age, and a career in the central bank in the early 60s. Then you went on to own your accountancy practice, Azman & Co., which later grew into a partnership, Azman Wong Sari & Co. Then as a banker, heading a leading banking group, subsequently acquiring your own bank. And all this happened in the early days of Malaysia that was experiencing new growth and changes in the political structure in the 60s, 70s, 80s. How would you describe your challenges versus what today's entrepreneurs are faced with? And in particular, as many are setting out on their own as an entrepreneur, what kind of challenges or opportunities did that era of our nation and the world provide, Tan Sri?
Well, it's a long story, but anyway, maybe to start with, I would say that I started with Bank Negara 4 years, and when I went into my private practice, that is in those days, in 1964 it was when I went to practice on my own. All around me, people said I was crazy. Those days, business and entrepreneurship is something very strange. Those days, everybody wants to work with the government, and if you are working with the government or central bank, they say, "Why do you want to go on to business?" Those days, businessmen, those who cannot get a job in government, more or less, and you are at the bottom of the society rating. I remember there was one Malay girl who won a beauty contest. Then she was asked, "Who would you like to marry?" Of course, businessman at the bottom of the list because he was a district officer. So the mindset was different. So for me to get into my own practice as one-man show at that time, everybody looks at me and say, "Hey, you must be crazy." And at that time there was no Malay actually started an accounting firm. So the mindset then today be different. Today, pushing in young people to go, but those days, we have to break out in terms of the mindset. I want to do it, go ahead. So it's a real breakthrough for me to get into that mindset, away from that. So that was the first challenge. So the environment then was that way. Similarly, if you start a new business on that, to get funding, was very difficult then because, there are only Masaleh banks, Hong Kong Bank, Charter Bank, and then the Chinese banks. And for a Malay then, I think, so when I went to foreign bank for a loan to start out the practice, I think they offered me either 800 or 8,000 ringgit. I think something like that, which I didn't take. But, so that means that I had to do my practice. I had to survive on the fees coming in. And from there, pay the wages, whatever. So that was how it was. But in terms of the business environment, the opportunities, I think I think they were very good, very great, because at that time, our economy was just starting to come up. And to Mahathir, I think I started up, he became Prime Minister, he pushed business. And from then on, I think our economy grew very fast, 8-10% a year. So for business people at that time, Malaysians starting, they had a great opportunity to grow very fast. So just to cut it short, for example, when I was banking, giving loans, for example, I give loans to contractors, building contractors, loggers, just cutting timber, financing them tractors. Today, there are tycoons, So from contracting, because the economy is growing, from contracting they build big buildings, from logging timber, they become big operators of timber operators, and then they become plantation owners. So it's a great story. So today, many of the such big tycoons today started off small. So that's briefly, I got a long story to say, but I like to listen to what they want to ask me, because then I can try to answer. Although I must say, you ask me what are the answers, how to do it, most likely my answer will be pretty fundamental. And I think most likely business people already know the answers, but at least probably I can emphasize what is important. Thank you.
All right, Tan Sri. Tan Sri, besides being a visionary banker, we know that Tan Sri is also a very successful entrepreneur too. Being an entrepreneur yourself, what are the best, I would say, the practices that you can share with the business? I know you mentioned that a lot of entrepreneurs, they know already the best practices, but if it comes from Tan Sri Azman, it makes a lot of difference. But as a business, to business owners, on how they can be sustainable and resilient as well in this era, especially.
2 or 3 things. Number one, I think, whether small business or big business, to me, a very fundamental issue is you must watch your cash flow, your liquidity. You'd be surprised, some of the big boys and some of the big guns, they can be caught out on their cash flow and liquidity. And the problem is, once you're caught with your cash, and probably times are not so good also at that time, you're forced to sell your good assets, if you're a big business, at a very low price, because the economy is low. So, and of course, at the small business is even more important, because you don't have assets to sell. So you're caught with the cash flow. That might be the end of your business, So it is a very important thing. And for those who just start up, are not financially knowledgeable, small business, they find that, hey, they're accumulating cash. They think they can spend it, spend on a brand new Mercedes or marry second wife, but they forget. After a few years, they have to renew the equipment. So they don't think of depreciation. So that's the other thing. At the small business, they have to think about what have they got to replace. If they don't think about that, then suddenly they have to replace the equipment and all that. They have no money. The cash has been spent. So they think every cash surplus is available to be spent. That's number one. Number two, I think being a banker, from a banker's perspective, I think it's important to have a very good relationship with your bankers, maybe more than one. Good relationship means, you actually very proper in your handling of your accounts. Try not to have arrears, in repayments, prompt repayment. When you have a good track record with the banks, you see over the years, you take loans, you repay on time. Not only that, they have trust in you. Then you get bigger loans. But if you do default, you don't comply with the terms, then you got your record not so good. That is more difficult for you in the long term. So in the long term, and I think being an entrepreneur, you must think long term, not short term. So your track record, especially the bankers, you have to jaga the thing, make sure that it's good. Then it's it's good for your future. I forget what the third one is, but anyway, that's the first two.
Right. Tan Sri, I have to ask these questions because a lot of my friends are actually asking these questions. Digital technology has been fast-tracked, obviously, as a result of the pandemic, and the convenience of e-commerce in our daily lives is very apparent and changing our lives even right now. And banks have been quick to embrace digital technology, like and also fintech, to meet the demands of the market and keen competition amongst the industry players. So, do you think that will the human touch or the face-to-face over-the-counter banking be replaced with digital technology, or with robotics, or with artificial intelligence, AI, taking over many of the banking services, Tan Sri?
I think we cannot ignore the digital development. I think it's a very, of course, is causing disruptions into the financial sector, but this is inevitable, and it'll probably be more and more in the future. You can see that, and the movement is very fast. I'm a dinosaur, not so good at this digital thing, but I've got to learn about, as you say, AI lah, robotics lah, fintech lah, all these new things. And the banks have to consider this seriously, because some of the banks are also going into digital bank themselves, Some, of course, developing their own digital capacity, developing within the bank themselves, like online banking, things like that. But it is something that all of us have to look at seriously and take advantage of. I would say that, in terms of entrepreneurs, don't leave this behind, because if you don't look at it, you might be left behind, because there's so many things that's beneficial to entrepreneurs. Just imagine today the internet, online banking, online shopping. How many little fellows have grown big just on that. So be familiar with it, and your own business, look at how you can digitalize some of those operations, because it will save you a lot of time, money, efficiency, all sorts of things. So I think it's something we have to go into. But face-to-face banking, a human touch will still be there. It will still be there. But I think in terms of, it will still be there. But in terms of proportion, I think the growth, it will be the digital one. As you can see, in the last 2 years, because of the pandemic, the shift to online banking is very fast. All of a sudden, everybody seems to know how to do it because of the pandemic. But once they've done it, they say, why do we have to go to the bank, travel to the branch? When I get in my house, I can do everything. Everything. So it's a movement you can, but there will be some people still. I would say there will be in a minority, because it'd be quite inconvenient face-to-face in terms of going to the bank. But there will be some of those who would like to do that.
I still prefer face-to-face for some of the transaction with the bank and all that. But Tan Sri, I want to ask about this SME as well, because you've seen the growth of SME trajectory in Malaysia as well. But you've seen and witnessed the growth of SME sector over the last 5 decades, I would say, and its role has never been less important. In fact, it is a backbone of our economy. But do you think that, what do you think our entrepreneurs today can learn from you, especially? Perhaps you can share your thoughts on the key ingredients on how this SME sector can succeed and become, not just our Jago Kampung SME export into regional, global players. That's right.
So as I said earlier, so my knowledge of the current business tycoons, most of them were SMEs to start with. So they grow. So to say that we had no SMEs, I think we had SMEs to start with anyway. In the 1950s, 60s, we were all SMEs. But now the big boys are all foreign companies. Locals are SMEs, contractors, developers, timber loggers. They have become now. But today, I think the horizon is much bigger. We have to think of even not only domestic, but also regional, international. That comes me to this latest development of agreement, RCEP, the regional cooperation partnership that is between ASEAN and Japan, China, Korea, and Australia and New Zealand. So this is the biggest partnership, regional partnership in the world. We think about 30 or 40%, 30% of the world population and GNP and so on. So it's very big. And SMEs, I think this is where the SMEs can benefit a lot. And they have all signed the agreement this year. In Malaysia, we signed it also, and it's now operational, I think, since probably last month, I think, operational. So we need to get our SMEs to know about this and learn about how can they benefit from this RCEP. So that's one area. That is for you to get into the regional markets, ASEAN, and also the +3 and also New Zealand. So I'd like to mention that. So SME now, a lot of SMEs got different stages, very small, medium, and so on. So these are all SMEs. And it's such a big element in our economy. 80% of the businesses are SMEs and micro. And I would like to say not only SME, but not SME. I like to always add MSME because micro, but don't forget the micro. To me, micro is probably more important because more people are involved in the micro than the SME because individuals, those are selling stalls and so on. These are micro, and they are also very, very important to the economy.
All right, Tan Sri, of course, that is the key, I would say, the opinion about MSMEs. MSMEs is very important, the backbone of our economy, especially the micro businesses. Tan Sri, I want to ask, because you've held so many leadership titles along your career and as an advisor to many banking organizations, businesses, and also even organizations in humanities, such as the National Art Gallery, Handicraft Development Corporation, etc. What are some of the most memorable moments in life that may have affected you as an individual to help and contributed to your personal development as a successful banker, entrepreneur banker, and a leader, Tan Sri?
I don't know. I am interested in many things now. So I find that when somebody gives me some responsibility, I take it seriously. That's why I think you mentioned some of the associations, but I'm also, I'm chairman of the president of the Club Sahabat Penjara, for many years. And of course, I'm the South Association Corporation, all this for 20 years over, like Malaysia-Japan Association, East Asia Business Council, and the Chartered Bankers Institute president, IBBM, 20 years, long time, MPC, 30 years, productivity. So, but sometimes I don't look for it, but people appoint me, for example, at the National Productive Corporation under METI. They appointed me, I think 30 years ago. I retired only 2-3 years ago. I was chairman for that long, but it was handed to me. And for me, it's a national thing. It's a good thing for the country. So I take it on. Same thing with the Club Sahabat Penjara, friends of prison. The prison head asked me to chair the association, take over from him. I said, well, it's a good cause because looking after the prisoner when they are in prison and also after they leave, I said, it's a great thing. So I put on many other things like that, So even the regional one, East Asia, Malaysia South. So if I don't ask for it, if you appoint me there, most of the regional one, government appoint me there, put me there. Once I take it on, I take it very seriously, like. And I think when I take it on, I'm not taking it on for my personal name or something. It's not. So that's why I believe. That's why I get elected every year for a long time because nobody wants to. They say, you have to be a leader. I think you have to be someone that doesn't push yourself forward. You come to a grouping, you are pushing yourself forward all the time. But the next time election, they won't elect you because this fellow is pushing himself. You find this, of course, many cases, people want to push themselves up. But not me, I'm not there for the post position or what. People want to come in, okay, it's fine, but nobody wants to come in. Nobody wants to come in. So I said, I'm stuck there. But once I'm there, I do my best. I do my best for whatever there is. So if I cannot, I will resign. if I find I'm not really useful, I cannot really contribute, I resign. What for? I just resigned recently from University Advisory Council, one of them. So, for example, when I believe that I was not so useful, okay, resign. But people appoint me there first, I take it on, but find that okay. But if I think I can really do it, by the way, I will approach Chancellor for 2 universities. One of them was a long time with me, 10 years or what, Open University. I like it. I feel I can contribute because as a pro-chancellor, I really, at the convocations, I meet the graduates, hand over the certificates to them. Now also I give a talk, a speech, and I give advice. So I like it, so I enjoy it, so I do it. So that's not the thing. So maybe leadership, I think, is, by the way, leadership, some people think it's only for the top position. No. If you're a family member, you're a father, you are a leader to your family, your children. Your department, small department, you're a leader to that department, you're the head of it. So as a leader, even at that low level, you have to have the leadership responsibilities. In other words, you're a leader there, you have to act as a model, as an example to those who are looking at you, wherever you are. So it has to be that sort of role as a leader, something that, so you have to be very careful. You have to behave properly, do the job properly. Everything that's part of the characteristics. I would say, so if you have those characteristics, I think people will, somehow they come to you and say, please, can you take this on? Please, can you take this on? So for me, maybe I'm reluctant to refuse, but I find that most of the things that come is a very good thing, like good for me, not for me, but good for the country, good for the community. Why not? Why not? I think that's my attitude. Why not? So today, I'm very busy doing all these things, but I enjoyed it because you feel that you're doing something worthwhile, so you enjoy it. Yeah.
So basically, take charge of whatever you do best and with integrity, of course. Tan Sri, we are living in the time where innovation can happen faster than ever before with technology and focus on the young and fresh pool of talent. But sometimes for businesses, it's hard for them to comprehend the advancement of technology, and it's hard for them to incorporate into their business and to match with their cost and the outcomes that they want. What advice do you have for entrepreneurs or businesses to stay ahead of the game and thrive in their competitive environment?
So one of the messages I'd like to tell people is that to keep learning, and learning is a lifelong thing. So just because you're a graduate doesn't mean you know everything. As you say, the things are developing so fast, especially in the digital space and technology. And if you're doing something, if you don't learn or you don't read about what's going on in your industry you're doing, you can be left behind. So you get to know what's going on, what are the latest changes, the latest things that's happening, then you can keep up to it. If not, you'll be left behind. And things are moving very fast these days. So you must keep up with your learning, your knowledge, especially in your field of operation, in your area of business. I think for the small fellas, through the internet also they can learn a lot. Where are the good market they can pursue, test out things. But definitely, you have to keep up to date on what's happening, especially in your particular sector. What's happening, and what you have to do to adapt or to improve, to change in order to be competitive. It's a very competitive world.
And of course, Tan Sri, it is so important to keep learning as a leader. It's a lifelong journey. And AmBank Group has started providing this opportunity for business owners to learn from some of the best across industries. Maybe what are the areas or things that you believe that the business leaders should always keep themselves abreast of?
Well, I think first thing is what's happening in the economy, in our own economy, in our way we're operating like today in Malaysia, what's happening in Malaysia. where is the demand coming from? Now this pandemic, is causing a lot of problem on the supply chain. If you are doing business, you're buying some raw material, you need raw material from the supplier from some countries, not only some countries, your supplier might be in Malaysia, but your supplier in Malaysia cannot get his normal supply. Then the costs go up, things like that. So maybe you have now to diversify, find out where else can you have your source of supply. And maybe you have to look at doing different things because you continue to do it that way. Now the cost is, because the supply situation, cost going up so much, things are not viable. So what's happening around you is very important. That's pandemic, but there are other things. Is the country growing, economy growing nicely, or is it going into recession? So if it's going nicely, you can expect in the marketplace, people will be able to buy things. Consumers will be able to spend. If things are not so good, economy coming down, people have less cash, then the demand will be less. So you can anticipate these things. Then you can also control your spending lah. Kalau you kata, wah ini economy moving, you spend, you can expand your business a bit. But if it's coming down, you can hold back your cash, and also keep some cash reserves, which is very important. I mean, if things coming out not so good, I better keep some reserve in case lah, type of thing. So it's very important to keep up to date in the that one you can know by reading, not just learning, but reading the newspapers, reading the Edge, reading the financial news, whatever. That will give you already, maybe in your case, when you have your discussion, these are the things, current issue. I mean, from that they can learn a lot. So this is learning, this part of learning, not just reading books. You can listen to the discussion on TV about business, what's going on, issues. So these sort of things are very useful. So you cannot just sit back and ignore this thing and just, just do your thing.
Tan Sri, prior to this question and prior to this answer, you mentioned about education. I want to go to education later on, but before before we go to the next question, I would like to remind the participants you can write down your questions, type your questions on the Q&A column, because I'm going to take some of the questions later on of this session. But Tan Sri, before we go into education, talking about AmBank, how have you been able to grow AmBank? I know I know you've been asked about this question a lot, but how have you been able to grow AmBank Group to where it is right now, to the position it is today?
Well, I started off 40 years ago when I took over the investment bank, 100% by the way. I started with 200. So, but now today, of course, we call ourselves a financial conglomerate. We have nearly 10,000 staff. But I think my mindset from the beginning is that I think I'm a builder. I keep building. But building means within my expertise, within my industry. So starting off with investment bank, the industry is huge. The financial industry is huge. So I had to acquire in the marketplace, life insurance company, general insurance company, finance company, commercial bank, stockbroking, all these I had to acquire along the way. So to me, when I started it, I just keep building, I keep growing. I mean, the thing is so big to get to do all these things. And of course, I'm thinking long term, I'm thinking lifetime thing, over the years. These are done over the years, 40 years, acquiring all these things. But continue to build. Building within the scope of my capacity and my expertise. So I'm not going into something strange. I'm going into something that I know. So I have a lot of confidence in that case because of my experience and background and my knowledge. So I did not go into it blank.
Tan Sri, Let's go into education. This is something that you're really fond of because education has been a key beneficiary of your philanthropy, and one key and prestigious institution has been named after you, the Azman Hashim International Business School, in short AHIBS. This business school has since gained international recognition and produced numerous successful graduates obtaining their PhDs, master's degree, and from all over the world. Tell us more about what seeded this idea and your vision for what AHIBS could represent in the area of lifelong learning. Tan Sri.
I think, of course, I practice lifelong learning. Even today, as I mentioned earlier, I'm learning about the digital space. Otherwise I get left behind. I'm in the bank. I have to know about blockchain. So I keep learning. I have to learn. Even now, I have to attend lectures on cyber security, this sort of thing. So your question about sorry, what was the question again? What was the question
about
again?
The AHIBS, but tell us more about what seeded this idea. Basically, how did you come up with the idea and vision for
education?
Yeah.
But so actually, it's not just the business school in UTM, but I've been giving some support donations to quite a few universities in Malaysia, like some buildings and so on a personal basis, not from the bank, but on my personal basis, because I like to support education. And I'm also, on the bank side, Institute of Bankers, IBBM, and now we call Institute of Chartered Bankers. I've been chairman for a long time. So that's in the banking school also. I'm chairman also. So this is all education, and I believe in it. I think this is the way that we have to move forward in Malaysia. Without education, without having our people educated to the high levels, have the skills, knowledge, how they become they say knowledge-based economy. We all talk about knowledge-based economy. That means you got to educate your people well. But I have one grumble about our education is the proficiency in English language that's gone down. From my perspective in the private sector today, I find that those graduates who are not proficient in this language, they have difficulty getting jobs in the private sector. Government may be okay, but private sector, we have a choice. We have graduates from University in Malaysia, which are private. The graduates are proficient. We have graduates from overseas. So that's their first choice. So we find that, when we come to interviews, the graduates which are not proficient, they can't even explain themselves, converse. You ask a question in English, they reply in Malay, that sort of thing. So this is the experience now, and it's sad. It's sad. And I think, unfortunately, we can't blame them too much. It's the system. The system is such that there's no emphasis on English language. So it's sad because I always talk like this because, 80% of the world's knowledge is accessible through the English language. So you want to be knowledgeable, want to know everything in the world, what's going on, that's the best language to go into. So when you're proficient in English alone is very important. Once you're proficient there, then you can go into anything you want. To learn anything, you can read about it, you can learn about it, because you understand. I can talk about this a long time, but better.
When we have more time to speak about that. Tan Sri, this would be my last question before I move into the Q&A from our audience, because this is very important, because I've seen some of the questions, some very interesting questions from our audience. But my final question, Tan Sri, when you look back after more than, I would say 6 decades of your career, your achievement, how would you like people to view and see your legacy, Tan Sri?
No legacy. Not for me to say, But I guess if I live a clean, honest life, honest life, integrity, I think that's more important. I think you say, and also, people say he's a good guy, he's very helpful, to the community. That's fine. That's it.
All right. So now we shall move into the Q&A from the audience. I have two questions here. The first one is from Sim. The question is, according to your experience, Tan Sri, what is the best and most effective way to motivate the members of a team? This leadership level, basically. Tan Sri.
I must say, over the years, some of the people who work for me have come up very well. I mean, some of them now they're holding very important positions outside. They stay with me 20 years or so, they go outside, they become CEO, leaders of, organizations, big ones also, not quite a number of them. So what I find is that, of course, first of all, I think I treat my staff well. I don't look down on people. I respect people. So I treat them as my friends. I don't look down on them. I don't like people who throw their weight around, by the way. So anyway, treat them as friends. And then I think I'm very friendly, probably not I'm the sort of friendly person. But I think I give them a chance to prove themselves. For example, there is a position, important position, I'll put them there. And through that, they develop into something on their own. They develop into really, really very capable people. And it's proven that way. So I think you have to see, it's not so much money. I think you have to incentivize your staff is to give them the opportunity to do things, to improve themselves, and they get excited about this because I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and successfully. So most of my good people, they stay with me a long time, 20, 30 years more. Why they stay? Because they like the environment, not so much the pay, because other people offer them higher pay, they don't go. Okay, that's part of it.
Yeah. Okay, Tan Sri, before that, I've seen some of the participants basically raise their hands here, but I would like to remind, you can ask your question by typing your questions on the Q&A column, so I can ask the questions. Much better that way, I think, instead of raising hands. So just write down your questions on the Q&A column. I shall ask the question. Okay, the next question.
By the way, Najib, I think I like this Q&A. In fact, if there are more questions later on, I can have another session, no problem, sometime.
And we can set 3-hour straight session with you later on if they agree with it. All right, Tan Sri. The next question, what value do you think is most key to your success?
What is the value?
Yeah. That's a tough one.
Yeah, I think as I said, I described the leadership things. I think that's a few things there. I think integrity, honesty, and not putting yourself forward. I think your team is more important, So don't push yourself. If you're putting yourself that's important, then other people, I think, will not like it. You show off that you're interested only in promoting yourself. But that should not be the case. Okay, if you're in an organization, you got people, associates, colleagues, all of them is a team. So these are all very important people. So I think number one will be respect for people. I show my respect to everybody down the line, even the guard watching the door, the cleaner. I say good morning to them. I respect them. I really dislike people who look down on people. I think I respect people, whoever they are, whatever level. I think that's important. Right? So then people will be comfortable. Maybe that's why. Maybe that's one reason. They are very comfortable with me.
You look comfortable. You look comfortable to be with Tan Sri. The other questions from our audience, from Mr. Hawk, I would say, in response to the climate crisis. This is some serious question. In response to the climate crisis, what is the strategy of AmBank to play a role in meeting this head-on through ESG, sustainability, and lending practices? Tan Sri.
This climate thing. Of course, the whole world is looking at it now. And everybody is committed, even our country, we are committed to a net zero carbon thing by 2020. Of course, we have to do all this. In fact, the banks also, we are obliged to do something. and Bank Negara is watching us, So of course, it's a world problem. We have to help. But, the problem is caused by the developed countries. They are the culprits, At the moment today, who are the biggest culprits? US, they are the ones who create it even today. So they want us, we are the one we keep with jungles, they want us to keep all that and contribute. Okay, we'll do it, but I think they have to do their thing. But you will see the shift from them. They promised, there was a climate conference some years ago. The developed country promised some percentage. Nothing happened. Nothing happened. So even now, they are talk. They say, but I'm not sure. Because they shift, not because of pandemic, supply chain, they are going back to the coal-fired power, going back, that sort of thing. We are not doing that. We are still doing our thing. So we are very good boys. So anyway, to answer your question, this issue, climate change, is caused by the developed world. Now, of course, they were willing to pay carbon credits, but that's not the way. Carbon credit is just buying themselves out of it. But I think we have to see that they must comply. They must also meet their commitment. They have not done that in the past. So, but we are responsible people, country. We are committed by 2050, and I think our institutions, including banks, we are setting up our special department to look at this ESG, to make sure we comply. We're also trying to help our clients to comply, see whether if they are, in that category, can they reduce the thing, diversify a bit. We're doing all that.
All right,
okay.
That's sweet. That's a few questions as well. This is from Raja. I apologize because I cannot say the full name, but the question is, would you mind to share your strategy experience, move upwards from SME into large corporation? I'm pretty sure you mentioned just now a little bit about that, but then I also remember, Tan Sri, this is from me because in the previous interview you mentioned about how the governors, the Bank Negara governors at that time, refused to let you go from Bank Negara to venture into something new in your life and in your career. Maybe you can answer your strategy experience moving upwards from SMEs into large corporation for AmBank.
Not to be fair on that governor thing, it was a Tony smile. I think because when I wanted, remember at that time, no Malaysian entrepreneur not there, but he wanted me to stay on because he thought I'll be a potential governor in the future lah. But when I came back to him 4 years later, and I said, I'm setting up my own practice, the first one, he rang up the employer and said, don't you take care of my dead body the first time. The second time, of course, first thing he said, go home and think about, but I came back the next day, I said, I made up my mind to go to practice. He actually was a supporter. He supported me. And I know that to this while, he said many good words to people about my practice lah, So I thought, to be fair, to be rounded at it. So on the jumping off from, so I did mention, but that this one is, as I mentioned, originally many of the tycoons today, they were contractors building houses, then they build buildings, and then for that money, they have a cement plant, thing like that, or they become timber logger, just cutting trees, get the money for that. Then they're able to buy their own tractor. Then they're able to have their own, buy over a small concession. From there, then they start planting palm oil or rubber, things like that. So it's growth stages. I would say that, like me as a builder, that you have to think very long term, Start something, see how you can go. It can be overnight jumping, but it's not easy. It's easy for me to talk because I know that for SMEs, for example, you talk about digital space. You have to spend money. Even to attend courses, you have to pay money. And some people in the small business, attend courses, so they say to spend the money is something. So maybe the government, should give out, especially RCP, on the RCP, do some free free things, free things for small business SMEs. Probably it's happening already, there are, but don't charge fees. I think the charge fees, you want many SMEs to come in, listen. If you charge fees, some will not come, which is unfortunate because it may benefit them. Right? So there's no simple answer, I think, that one.
All right. I believe this is the final question from our audience because we have limited time, Tan Sri, but we shall find time in the future. 3 hours straight session. The final question from George.
Okay.
How do you handle any external factors that you cannot control but affect the business? How you handle any external factors that you cannot control but affect the business? Tan Sri.
Yeah, I think, of course, in banking, it happens all the time. Like, of course, any business also happen all the time. But external factors you cannot control. It's like the pandemic, it cannot control. And then when you get a pandemic, the banks have to be giving the moratorium all this and then your customers, many of them will suffer. Some of them go out of business. So you have to accommodate many of the customer to see how we can assist them over the period. So these are all unexpected. That's why in the business, you need to have some, especially bank, we need to have our cushion. In other words, we have our reserves. In other words, if there's for something to happen unexpected, we have enough reserves to cope with it. So banks are like that in any case, because when the Negara supervise, going to make sure that you have this provisioning. But not even provisioning, sometimes unexpected things. You provide for the bad debt. Not enough because outside factor like pandemic, last time we can't expect pandemic. So we are now provide for that extra thing. So if you are not having enough reserve, then you will suffer. So the only things that you cannot avoid, things you cannot control, nothing you can do about it. So the only thing you have to have enough reserves within yourself. So that's the only way. But you cannot do anything. It's a new law comes in that restricts your thing, or you make your operation, half of it cannot do. So you have to do something else.
Lastly, before we close the session, the final word, because I'm pretty sure our participants today comes from different walks of life and different background. I would say maybe your generic advice to all of us.
A difficult one. Anyway, I would just say that maybe one of the things that I'm a positive person. So maybe be positive. I remember sometimes I'm hoping for something which I didn't get or was not approved. But subsequently, I was disappointed, of course, sad. But subsequently, I got something better. So which means, when you have something setback like that, think of it as maybe it's a blessing in disguise. Maybe something is around the corner, better waiting for you. I've got that mindset. I've got a mindset, positive mindset. So be positive. Of course, the correct word also is never give up. Never give up. You keep trying, do other things. So blessing in disguise is there because if you try, setback, don't give up. If you keep trying, you might get something else, and it can be anything. You never know. It might not be the thing you want, but something else comes to you, which is very interesting. That's better for you, for your future. That can happen. So be positive.
Be positive, but during the pandemic, you have to stay negative, but be positive, your attitude and the things that you do in your life. Thank you so much, Tan Sri Azman Hashim, for letting us to be part of this session. It is indeed very inspiring session, personally for me as well, for BizDIALOGUE. Thank you so much, participants. I would like you to scan this.
My pleasure.
Yes, I would like you to scan this QR QR code. If you Razi, we can get the QR so that you can get give us some feedback about it. To the session is very important for us to know the feedback about this to the session. I hope it gives you guys a lot of things to learn and wisdom and insights, I would say, in whatever you do in your life, be it business or personal journey, at your work and all that. You can apply this wisdom and also insights in our daily life, I'll say. This is it. Thank you for attending the webinar, and you can scan the QR and click in the box and click the link in the chat box to comment to this session. Again, thank you so much, Tan Sri Azman Hashim and the rest of the participants. I'm Najib Arif. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. AmBank BizDIALOGUE. With that, we close today's session. Thank you so much.